At ESETI, Hawaii, we have been working hard getting the coffee harvested. Probably some of the best coffee in the world. It is harvested from world-renowned Kona shores, in the Hawaiian tradition. Ancient organic Arabica beans high in antioxidants and come with no harsh fillers. Hand-picked, pulped and dried at ESETI, Hawaii on sacred land. It is smooth, no bitterness, and some say it tastes like Hawaii. Christmas is coming up. What better gift than ESETI coffee with a couple of ESETI mugs to share with a friend? All proceeds go to the Lahore Foundation to assist in the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth.
SNX Radio invites you to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos with us as we dive into UFOs, cryptids, and everything otherworldly. As we navigate the night, we investigate the unknowns that spark our curiosity and challenge our understanding of reality.
The truth is our guide in the vast expanse. It's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the groove surround us, everything's alright.
From the sun, the nation X quest, the truth is our guide in the vast expanse. It's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the groove surround us, everything's alright. SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light.
The frequency, let's explore the spots. Heavy bass drops with tight beats.
Illuminate the shadows, the echo of our call.
On this roller ring we'll never fall.
Feel the energy rising, can you sense the spark? As we dive deeper into the cosmic arc.
Stories of the universe, mysteries unfold. In the heart of SNX, where the truth is gold. Every note we play, every line we write, crafting our legacy, shining ever bright. SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots. Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spot. Here in the spotlight, we're taking our turn. With the fire in our hearts, let the passion burn. SNX Radio's call, ringing through the air. Together we rise, together we dare.
So join us now, let the rhythm flow. With SNX Radio, we're ready to go. Unraveling the mystery side by side, we stand hand in hand. In this dance of truth, let the story expand. Take the journey, come on, let's go. Oh yeah, where the stars and secrets glow. Some Nation X radios glow. In the night, we'll ride the show into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, oh, yeah. Come with us and let it go. into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, own. Come with us and let it go, go. Feel the rhythm, feel the night. It's every heartbeat, pure delight. Mysteries come to light. Hold on tight, it's out of sight. It's out of sight. Into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, own. Come with us and let it go, go. Feel the rain, come on, let's go. Feel it. Oh yeah, where the stars and secrets glow so bright. Subnation X radios glow. Oh no, in the night we'll ride the show into the unknown, unknown, where mysteries are shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own, own. Come with us and let it go, go, go. When mysteries are shown, shown, shown. Dance to the beat we own. Come with us and let it go, go. Take the journey, come on, let's go. Oh yeah, where the stars and secrets glow. Subnation X radios glow. In the night we'll ride the show. Unraveling the mysteries, secrets in the night. We travel through the cosmos, ready for the flight. Together we'll shine, casting shadows aside. In the heart of the rhythm where our dreams collide.
Join the Subnation X quest, the truth is our guide. In the vast expanse, it's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the groove surround us, everything's alright.
From the Subnation X quest, the truth is our guide. In the vast expanse, it's where we reside. Hands up to the sky, let the bass ignite. Feel the groove surround us, everything's alright. SNX radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots.
Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spots. Heavy bass drops with tight beats.
Illuminate the shadows, the echo
never fall.
Feel the energy rising, can you sense the spark? As we dive deeper into the cosmic arc.
Stories of the universe, mysteries unfold. In the heart of SNX, where the truth is gold. Every note we play, every line we write, crafting our legacy, shining ever bright. SNX Radio, let the truth ignite. Together we'll shine, bringing shadows to light. In this cosmic dance, we're connecting the dots. Tune into the frequency, let's explore the spot. Here in the spotlight, we're taking our turn. With the fire in our hearts, let the passion burn. SNX Radio's call, ringing through the air. Together we rise, together we dare.
So join us now, let the rhythm flow. With SNX Radio, we're ready to go. Unraveling the mystery side by side, we stand hand in hand. In this dance of truth, let the story expand.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of SNX Radio. I'm Coley. I have to apologize. Somehow StreamYard got stuck on the last, on the intro video where I was supposed to cut it at. So it kind of extended things for that. I do apologize, but it's great to see everybody here and in chat. I saw Kurt WC5, I know before, always. Awesome. He's always working that wrench, so we appreciate that. And Swamp Dog is in the house. Yes, awesome. We do have quite a few I see over on X. So I'm streaming tonight. Or it's not tonight, it's today. On X, Facebook, Rumble. We're going to go back on Rumble, Kick, and YouTube. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. We're going to try and get it out to as many people as we can, but we have a very exciting guest, and I consider him a friend, really. But everybody was asking for more James Gillian, so we are giving you what you want. So nobody better else to do it. And if you guys didn't get to see the coffee commercial, I played it on the intro, so it was like one of the first things. So if you go back, you can definitely see it. I'm going to play it again at closing because it's pretty cool. So who is James? He's an international best-selling author, lecturer, ordained minister, and extraterrestrial contactee who has been active in the UFO and New Age spiritual community since the mid-1980s. Founder of ECETI, ECETI Ranch, Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence. He's established and maintains lifelong contact experiences with extraterrestrial intelligence and interdimensional beings, multiple near-death experiences, and direct communication with spiritually advanced off-world citizens, civilizations. Excuse me. I'm going to start all over. So anyway, he promotes the idea humanity is entering an ascension process, and that benevolent ETs are assisting Earth at this time. So without further ado, I'm going to let you I'm just not going to talk here for a second until I get myself back in order. But I'm going to bring James on and let him explain more, because that doesn't even do him justice. I feel like I read that in the beginning, but we've gotten to know him so much better on here. So yeah, welcome, James. So make sure you're on mute.
All right. Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Always a pleasure to have you. So coffee, you have to address the coffee, because I think that
Well, what happened is I've spent a lot of time in Mexico and Hawaii, and I've come to Hawaii to do conferences and workshops and gone on whale watches and dolphin swims and all those things for quite a while. And I've always thought about, making an ECETI Hawaii. That was a dream of mine. And thanks to some wonderful funders that happened along with my own funds that helped make it happen. But the I have a 7-acre ranch, 7.5-acre ranch here. It's half coffee, half mac nut. And so when I bought the ranch, it was just totally overgrown. It was just all vines and weeds, and coffee was dead and dying and had a disease and things like that. And so we cleaned everything up and stumped the coffee and cleared out all the vines and everything. And then it grew back just vibrant. And so it's a very ancient plant, and it's the original Arabica bean coffee. And it's all hand picked. I do a lot of the picking myself. Actually, I have a couple of friends helping, but it's hand picked, hand pulped, hand dried. We do take it to a roaster, and that's it. That's the only time it goes out of our hands. But it's organic, and it's just like amazing. It's not like other coffee anywhere, because and it's all done in the Hawaiian tradition, and there's no fillers. It's not cut with anything. So, and it doesn't give you that sharp, bitter edge or anything. It's just a real smooth high when you drink it. It's actually beneficial. So it's a whole different animal. But we were using that to get sell the coffee cells to help fund the ranch and keep it going. Like both at ECETI Ranch in the Washington and ECETI Ranch in Hawaii, we try to make them self-sufficient, self-sustained, through workshops, classes, my book sales, the coffee sales, everything goes into the Lahar Foundation, which is, the parent group of all this that keeps it together. So, so we've always tried to make it, self-sustaining. So by, for people buying coffee, buying shirts and merchandise and cups and, the usual stuff, and coming and getting, transverse release sessions and counseling, that keeps everything going. So that's kind of how it came into being. But, it's a work in process. Like we're kind of held up right now because we've had a 2-year hold, just because the economy went to hell and people don't want to fly anymore. But now, we're hoping things take off again. I think they're going to, but we're hoping things take off again, and that we can get back. But everything's on hold right now. We just don't have the funds to keep building, and keep doing the work we're doing.
That's understandable too with everything. Have you thought about structuring for online, if people wanted to get online and participate, like with some of the workshops or anything? Are you offering? Because I know that I've heard, I don't know how many different people say that. Like, does he have? Because I know you like to be there in person, face to face, and do all that. And in a normal society, that would be excellent. But to keep you guys, and kind of bridging some of that, I'm just wondering if that is.
Yeah, we need to do that. We need to start doing more online conferences, and I just don't have the tech support to do that. We're not a really major operation. We're kind of we kind of stick to basics. I'm usually so busy taking care of the ranches and maintenance and all the other stuff that the tech end of it, I need help on that end to get the message out. But we do have ECETI Stargate TV.
Yes.
And everything's on there. People can go there and do the workshops and the classes and get all the shows I've done and everything. That's all on ECETI Stargate TV. So we do have that. What if we
set up like a private something like even like this? Yeah. And then you could do, and then take questions, or like, like just, I guess, even like a Skype meeting or something where people, because I think it's like, I don't know. I get, because I love that. I love that you kept all that technology off of the ranch. I love that you go down into bunkers. Like, this is the part I appreciate, and I would never want to take away from that. So I'm just wondering, maybe if we could find a volunteer in your local area, or I know people would love to be a part of this. And I could even put it out there too, if you guys are in Hawaii in this area and would be able to do that, because that you shouldn't, you definitely shouldn't I agree. Keep the technology. It messes with the frequencies. But if you could find a way to do that, to offer it to other people, I think that would be excellent. But
yeah, we've been doing all that stuff for free and doing a Q&A time on the show for free. And people go into Telegram and they ask their questions there, and then we answer them on the show. I haven't done that lately because Kathy, who helps me do that, she's not been available. So we're kind of held back on that.
yeah.
There's so much breaking news. Everything's happening so fast right now.
Right. When we go into some of that, we can touch on this. We can go later, but yeah.
I mean, you name it's going on, with all the comets and, Three-Eye Atlas and the R2 Swan and all these other things coming in, and all the disinformation around it and misinformation. And it's, everybody's trying to redirect everything, so we probably will, that's a really good idea, because I've been wanting to set something up like that, like just like a workshop setting, a Q&A, and just have everybody can come and ask questions, and I'll do a little talk in the beginning about what's going down, and then people can ask questions and do some seminars like that, because I know that would help generate some revenue, and help us get. Like, I have a pad I've got all formed in right now here in Hawaii, and I don't have the money for the cement to put in there, but that'll change. That I think everybody's going through really hard times right now, and I think it's going to flip after January. But because things that are set into place, like JSARA goes into effect in January, the new quantum QFS it's already in place. It's going to be announced, the quantum financial system, all that stuff. And I kept telling people that everybody's kept saying Tuesday, everybody's going to be able to redeem everything on Tuesday. And they kept saying that. I said, no, not going to happen. They get really mad at me. And then they'd ask me why. And I said, because there are some very, very dark, evil people heavily invested in this. And until they're arrested and taken out of the picture, why would you want to give them millions of dollars? It's the white hats aren't going to do that. They're not going to allow that to happen. So, they've got to be taken out first. There's a lot of cleanup has to happen, and then the funds will be released, and the other stuff. All the other stuff is going to happen. But I'd say January on, it's all going to bust open, and bust loose.
I agree. There's a lot in the making. You don't know exactly, have you kind of connected some of the dots, and what, you can connect it even with what's going on with the AI, not the AI, the Three-Eye Atlas. And I mean, it's just all some odd timing too.
What a thing. Three-Eye Atlas comes through and says, you're not ready. Sorry, and sorry, you can't have contact. Okay, you look at psychology. When you tell somebody you can't have contact, what is everybody going to do? They're going to get off their ass and start making it happen. They're going to go, what? So there's a lot of manipulation going on there with, from the beginning, when Three-Eye Atlas came in, it was doing weird stuff. It was starting. The plume coming off it was going towards the sun, not away. It was doing all kinds of crazy stuff and getting bigger and changing colors and all that stuff. That's not indicative of a comet. That's from the very beginning. And then it started sending pulses out at 7.83, I think, hertz, which is the Schumann resonance. Why would it be sending the same pulse as the Schumann resonance? And then it goes on to all the other communication that came out. Now, this other stuff after this, there's no way to really verify it, because it's coming from NASA and, Michio Kaku and all these guys, which all could be CGI and just wishful thinking and AI and whatever. You don't know, because it's crazy. But that's what bothers me, is that what we found out in the very beginning, we scanned it to see what was there. And I had several people, and Peter Slaughter also scanned it and got some information, not exactly the same, but similar. second. And then what was weird is that when we looked in there, it was kind of a bluish pulsing energy. And we were getting that it was kind of like alive. It was like AI. It was technology that's alive. That totally corresponds. You're like disappearing there. I don't know if you know that your light went off.
No,
Okay. And then it.
Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see now.
Okay.
And then so we tried to communicate with them and find out who's in there. And we started seeing like a bluish colored form starting to appear. And we asked our guides who they were, and they said there are actually 6-dimensional beings on there, on that craft, and there might be a consortium of beings, but they know how to lock people out from remote viewing them, or and they'll just reflect back to you what you want to see and things like that. So we kept just sitting with it, and we were patient, and we made it clear what our intentions were, and kept just sending love down the frequency. And so finally, they were very ambivalent. They didn't even want to talk to us, So right away I go,
oh wow,
I don't know who these guys are, but they are so advanced that they're like going, whatever, we're busy, like this, we're busy. So what we found out is they were a data collecting ship, and they totally scanned everything, our whole solar system, and they know where everything is. They scanned the consciousness of the earth. They scanned our technology. They scanned everything, and everything is cataloged, basically all the life forms on Earth. And so a lot of people are freaking out about that. And I said, well, if these are these galactic cosmic beings, they need to know where everything is in case we do something stupid, like try to create a nuclear war or things like that. They're going to have to go, okay, kids, we're taking your toys away. You're out of control. It's happened in the past, and they don't want to see that happen again. But a lot of people freak out about that. But we never felt a threat. We never felt a threat at all. We felt at the most ambivalence, like we're busy. No, we're not going to land. We're not going to work with the humans. We will work with the councils, the higher councils, and the Galactic Federation, so to speak. But they said we're not working with, no, we're not going to come and land. And basically they said you're not ready. And that's the same message that the other guys were saying. You're not ready. So in a way, you really think of that on a higher level by saying you're not ready. You're going to really force people to take a look at themselves and change and try to rise to the occasion. Because when you tell a human, you can't, what do? It's just like a little kid. You don't do this.
Oppositional.
They're going to do what not to do. It's just, they have to learn through experience. So it's kind of different, but there's a lot of different levels to this. On a PSYOP level, they're trying to say, oh, it's just a comet. It busted up in a bunch of pieces. It's gone. It left. That's where they want to go. They want to bury this thing, and it didn't happen. Another level is that they're going to say, oh, they don't even want to have anything to do with you. They're gone again. No more disclosure. No more. That was it. You failed. It's over with. ETs aren't here. They're not coming. And so that's another PSYOP level that can be played out here. And then another level is to try to discredit all the people in ufology and everything. The authentic people, they're going to try to discredit that.
Oh, yes, they will. Yes, they will.
And then there's different levels to this. And so you've got a lot of the posers and the people who aren't authentic putting out all kinds of crazy information, everything from they're reptilians, they're here to conquer us, they're this, they're, and again, a lot of it was reflected back to them. Whatever they came with was reflected back to them by these beings. So they saw kind of their own reflection or their own projections that they projected into it. But
Great. And I have that going around on X that somebody took my brain scan. I'm not a reptilian. Like
yeah,
but it sounds crazy, but there's some people in this community that will believe stuff like that. And
oh
that's how
yeah.
this whole thing just gets going. And it just like, it's
Oh, you
crazy.
know what? The UFO community, unfortunately, even the spiritual community, I've never seen so much gossip, backstabbing, competition, and these are all they all shunt your spiritual evolution. Basically, people don't
Mm-hmm.
realize when you're playing around in those realms, you're at a very low frequency, a very low vibration.
Oh,
And
yes.
we got, when we had Corey on here, we talked about that, how the major UFO community, the big money behind the UFO community, it's a $1 billion industry, and how they just came after us, hook, line, and sinker. They tried everything to character assassinate and discredit us. I mean, I heard
Mhm.
stories. I heard stories about myself. I mean, some of them I almost wish happened because you
They're
know,
probably more exciting
I have
than
a
what's really going on.
I have a pretty monastic life almost. But
I know. I know if
yeah,
they were only that exciting,
yeah,
right?
I'm
All
over
the
here working
time.
my ass off, picking coffee and pulping and grinding and cleaning up the thing and everything. And I've done all these wild adventures with all these people, and people I don't even know. This guy was, people are going, I'm going to take you down, because I know this person that you totally dissed or whatever, and had an affair with. And I go, well, what's her name? It turns out to be some woman that was raised in a test tube and didn't have a
Oh
family
my
or a name.
gosh. I remember
And,
you.
and I
Oh
had
my
I
gosh. Yeah.
had kids with her. I had kids, had an affair and kids with
Oh,
her. Some
congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I go,
Wow.
okay, I'm a father. It's like, where's my cigar?
You're right.
But,
If he does
you know,
exist, I'm grabbing him and getting him somewhere safe. It's just
yeah,
crazy people.
this is how bad it got. They were saying I was, typical. I was gay. I was a womanizer. I was uh, some pedophile. That one came out, which is really disgusting because I've been speaking up against the whole
Yeah,
child
I know you
trafficking
have.
since
Yeah.
day one, which is why I'm getting blackballed
Yeah,
from out of
this
Hollywood and
is
everybody
right
else.
on their playbook. This is
Yeah.
another play out of their play. Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah,
the
I've seen
last one was I'm the head of a Russian bestiality ring, and that they have all the
it.
evidence. And I go, what? And then somebody actually found a person with my name, but the middle name was wrong, that was in jail as a pedophile. And it was James Wilson Gilliland, and my name's James Allen Gilliland. And they had the wrong. And so I showed them, took a picture of my driver's license, and I put it up on their on their site. And I said, I think you need to do a retraction, an apology. That never happened.
Yeah,
And
no, when I
yeah,
ran for city council, they did the same thing to me. They printed it was the wrong spelling. And I was like, you better make sure you have the right. It's just like a letter, is off. And I was like, that's crazy. But that's
yeah.
stuff
I
like
mean,
that and people running with
it's
it can ruin people. It really can.
well, when people, let's say let's say I have a very spiritually and technologically advanced ET. I'm telepathic. I have direct knowing. All these abilities. Would I be involved in this society in the UFO field of ufology? Would I be in? It's riddled with shills and planned opposition and posers and a lot of crazy people, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And why would I get involved in all that? That's why disclosure's been a fail for over 70 years, 80 years, basically. But
I agree.
because it's a controlled narrative, it's always been. And so the people that are speaking out against the controlled narrative are blackballed, are censored, and especially people who are authentic. Peter Slattery's one. There's quite a
Mm-hmm.
few others out there, and we have the most incredible evidence. We have the ships, every size, shape, and color. Photographs of the beings. We know who's on the ships. We know a lot of them by name and their cultures and why they're here and who they've been. Who they were in the past. There are a lot of our ancient ancestors returning. We have all that information, but it's been totally censored, in most of the UFO community, and now we've been blackballed out of the major conferences and everything else. And even when people sign us up, hey, can you come to this conference? They go, yeah. All the other speakers that are posers and shills and everything freak out and go, I'm not coming if he's coming. And then they cancel it.
Oh, oh
Yeah,
boy.
cancel it out. I mean, that happened a while ago at Contact in the Desert. I didn't realize, one of the event coordinators came up to me and they go, you're probably the most loved and the most hated person in the UFO community. And to me, I go, hated? Why? I don't hate anybody. I don't have any enemies. And
No, they hate you. Yeah. Right.
and I go, why would somebody hate me? It's like, and then I realized
They do.
I was a reflection to their own lack of integrity and their own lack of authenticity.
Doesn't it drive you crazy? I'm described as that too. And I'm like, but then more people you talk to, there's always, and I'm like, man, if these people, if they like, that's all they do all day long, and you just got picked, and I'll guarantee there was someone before, but once they do that, and then they find a couple of more lunatics that pick the same person, they don't care. That's like they morning, noon, and night. I don't even think they sleep throughout the night. Like what I have seen, I'm like, I don't know what's going on here, but in any of it, it's like, it makes it so much more difficult for the real stuff. So you can't really expose what they're doing because now they've just like jammed up your whole system. And then people, but what they're usually accusing other people of is what they're doing themselves. And they're sitting up there, and it needs to all come crumbling down. I'm with you on it.
It's almost like, it's just like politics. It's no difference in politics. The people that are pointing the finger have three fingers pointing back, and the people screaming the loudest are the most guilty, blaming others. But it's the same thing. And people don't like the mirror, when you reflect back to them their lack of critical thinking and integrity, and they get very pissed. But I like this guy. He's talking about ETs. He goes, I believe ETs are amongst us now. They are. We are the ETs.
That's Swamp Dog. Yeah, he's recently started. He's got a channel, and he's seen you on before, but he's wants to know all about ETs and all. He's become fascinated. So that's good. This is a good show for him. Yeah.
The real history of Earth. We've been colonized again and again, and we've gone through great wars and pole shifts and cataclysms, and had to start over as primitives. And so we're a consortium of ET DNA, along with a human that was developing here naturally. So, I always tell people I don't believe in ETs. And I said, well, you don't believe in yourself then, because if you want to see an ET, go look in the mirror. We're all ETs, so to one degree or another. And, that DNA that we have that came from the stars, it's still communicating with those in the stars. And so if we get quiet and go within and listen and focus on love and joy and bliss and raise our frequencies, we'll start getting communication with these advanced civilizations. And that's why they want to keep everybody distracted, and keep your nose to the grindstone and keep you poor, sick, and stupid. That's the motto of the tyrants, that they're playing out here.
Cuts right into that whole hierarchy of needs, and you're in survival mode. Once you're in survival mode, it's everything else around. It's like people nowadays, I was talking to a few other people, they can't retain anything new. It's like, even though they might hear you, it's like they're just at the traumatized point. They can't literally learn anything new or think, or just retain it, I guess, for that matter.
Yeah. There's such a bigger picture going on. I look at all these ridiculous division games going on and all these protests and everything else. And lately, and you go and you ask a person, they're holding a sign that says something. You say, well, explain. And they can't. Somebody just handed them a sign, and I saw, they said something lied about everything. You go, okay, name one. And they can't. And you go, well, what do you base this on? And it boils down to somebody gave them a sign and paid them to be out there, basically. So
they don't even know what's on there.
The politics, right. But it's all tied in together. And it's all a big distraction when we really need to be rising to the occasion. We need to be cleaning up our old wounds and traumas from wrong conclusions from past experiences, raise our frequencies so we can have contact, so we can be ready. And all this other stuff is just a huge distraction going on. But it's a war between those that want to empower the individual and help people make their own personal connection with, God, Great Spirit, Creator, and those that don't. They want to disempower the individual, keep us as indentured servants, and totally control the masses, basically. And so, if you get down to basics, that's what's going on. And you can't, the thing about character, people's actions establish their character. And so that's what you have to go by. You can't go by the media or the words or, all this other stuff. Okay, what are you doing? What are you?
Do you know, I was doing a bunch of, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think this is the perfect time to ask, the 7 mirrors that you talk about, that like, I was going into a ton of your work last night, because I was finding it like more fascinating, because I had to know the universal laws, and you told me to. So I had to understand that, and I think this stuff is really important. Like, and then like I said, in understanding and how you like reflect, so you help people get outside of that one-sided mirror.
Yeah,
like, Can you kind of like explain that really quickly as you're going through this? Because I think this is like so important to understand.
Yeah, let me go through a couple levels of it. Basically, Muktananda, one of the yogis, said, there's only 2 reasons for all the problems on earth: love and lack of love. And that's really what it all boils down to when you get down to basics. And then you go by what the yogis say. I was studying with yogis, and they gave me a name, which was interesting. But what happened was they talk about how it's getting back to the simplicity, and focus, get out in nature, focus on love and joy and bliss until you become it, because that is the nature of God, and that's your true God nature. That's what's at the core of your soul, which sits right next to the heart. And it's through the soul you connect to God, in expanded states of awareness. But it really is that simple, but we're kept distracted. And there's so many, like the news, one after another, they're war here, this country, this is the economy here, all that stuff is just a huge distraction. But, we have to get back to the simplicity. And the only way you can do that is in nature. And a lot of times just doing things repetitious, like anything repetitious can be a form of meditation, and you can get downloads and information. But what's really interesting is that universal law is the law of the cosmos. It's like God's law, whatever name you want to give God, Creator, Great Spirit. But before we go there, we have to realize where we got our image of God. And so a lot of the images of God came from the little g gods, the pantheons, and the Greek gods and Nordic gods, the Middle East gods, Greek gods. They all had their gods, right? They all had, and those were the Anunnaki, those who came from heaven to earth. And they're very advanced races that came here, and most of them came from Lyra. They're like Lyrians, and their races, an average height is about 24 feet tall. And then they were one of the first colonies that we know of. We have historical records of them that we know that they came here and they established colonies here. And it was really interesting because they would always rise up to a high level of civilization, and they'd build their stone temples and country, temples and buildings and everything, and the megalithic buildings and all that stuff. And then they'd get into turf wars, and they'd divide, and then they'd go to war, and then they'd wipe themselves out and have to start over. And some of their wars were so devastating that they set into motion other cataclysms like pole shifts, and their lasers, they were cracking the earth, and they dropped the firmament, they dropped the clouds, with their lasers. And we can do that now. We're realizing we can control weather with lasers and things like that. Well, the thing is by doing all that stuff, they kind of created their own demise. But and so that's all recorded history about the division, the Anunnaki, the Great Wars, all that stuff. That's we found that on cuneiform tablets and everything, who they were, and that's all there. But and then so they kind of wiped themselves out, and that was the end of the giants and the end of all the, you can call them Nephilim, whatever. Those are all tied to that group. And then the second attempt at colonization of the earth was the Palladian colonies of Atlantis and Lemuria. And so unfortunately, the same thing happened. The Lemurians stuck to universal law, which is basically universal peace, brother, sister love, individual freedom, and prosperity for all. It's like we all rise together, and those who are blessed, with abundance are more fortunate, help the less fortunate. That was the way things were organized. Well, the Atlanteans went off into worshiping the intellect and science and control through science and domination, and they went off the reservation basically. So they got into war with the Lemurians and melted down their cities, which is, they're under the Gobi Desert right now. The big green glass that's underneath the glass fields that are underneath the Gobi Desert, that's remnants of the Lemurians.
Wow.
But so the Lemurians, they're both spacefaring. People have them as running around in little leather suits and jungle people. No, they're both spacefaring people. So the Lemurians decided, well, we're just going to drop a meteor in on Atlantis and put an end to that. So they did. So there's a big hole there called the Atlantic Ocean, and that was the end of that civilization. So we're starting over the same. We're at that same thing. We're starting over again. We've reached a level where our technology has far surpassed our spirituality, and we're not adhering to universal law. And the tyrants have these technologies, and they want to use them to depopulate the earth and all these other things. And
it's working.
So wants total depopulation. They want to control and totally dominate. They want to surveil. They want to, there's one group doing that. Those are the Atlantean souls, they're going off in that direction again. And then you have the Lemurian souls that are here that remember what happened. And they're saying, no, we need to, create a foundation again of universal law and adhere to that. And they're butting heads right now. We're butting heads with the tyrants. And so the thing about what's going on is that they call it the last waltz of the tyrants, because they're not frequency specific to the Earth's evolution and ascension process. They're imploding, and their bodies are failing. Their castles are crumbling. Everything is the karma is all being accelerated and amplified, and it's coming home to roost. And so we're in the middle of that right now. So you're going to see the tyrants totally implode. Everything's going to be revealed, who they are, what they did.
And that's a part of universal law, is karma.
Yeah. And so basically people go, karma doesn't exist. It does. It may not, just because you say it doesn't exist, there are higher realms, and your soul is keeping track of everything. So karma is actually created by your own soul, your higher self. It's not God doing it. God's beyond karma. God's beyond judgment. It's just pure unconditional love and joy and bliss. It's just pure consciousness and energy. It's not a little old man with a beard. And so all these religions were based on these bearded gods, little g gods, and how they behaved on the planet, and their rules and regulations. And so that's why you have all this division and conflict and everything. Well, people are starting to figure this out now and realizing that, wait a second, and they're starting to become educated about all the different religions, and basically the ones that are trying to claim themselves to be the chosen ones, and they're trying to create one religion, their religion, against everything else that are judging and calling other people infidels, whatever you want to call it, Goyim. There's other names. I can't remember what they're called, but all the religions are doing it basically. Even there's parts of Christianity that are doing that too. That if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, you're going to hell and you're a bad person and you're inhuman. There are sects of Christianity that are going down that path, which is it's not the teachings of Jesus at all.
I grew up like that. If you're gonna burn in Catholic, burn in purgatory, and you better go. It's just like, it sounded familiar when you're saying that. This is what exactly. They do.
And the other things, there's different parts of Muslims and all those different sects, that they have the different books, the Quran, the Talmud, all of it. But you'll see that people gravitate towards the writings of the bearded gods, and some were tyrannical and some were all loving and all forgiving and were in service to humanity, earth. And so that's the big division. That's the core issue going on right now. And so all of those books were not written. God didn't come down with a pen and write those books. It came through visions of men, and they did the best they could according to their symbols and understandings at the time. And a good example, if you read Ezekiel, a shiny disc comes out of the firmament. It has bronze feet like calves, and it has fire and brimstone coming out from underneath it. When it lands, it sounds like 1,000 rushing rivers, right? So everybody's trying to figure this out. You got a bunch of primitive people in a way seeing an event that was beyond their ability to comprehend. And the same thing with the pillar clouds that were a fire by night, the chariots, the fiery chariots that Elijah and those guys ascended in, were communicating with, all that stuff. Those are all contacts with higher dimensional beings or technologically advanced beings. And so again, some of those beings were beneficial and some weren't. If you finish reading Ezekiel, that encounter, that whatever that ship was that landed that they're describing, bronze feet like calves, fire and brimstone, sounds like a rushing rivers. Right. So these wheels within wheels with flashing lights came out. And then there's this bearded guy standing in the doorway, and he orders 6 of his men with their shattering weapons to go destroy all the men and women and children of Israel, lay the city to waste. So now logically you go, how could 6 men lay to waste a whole city? They do have spears, they've got arrows, they've got all that stuff. Whoever these guys were that did that had, and they said with their shattering weapons, and so they had weapons that just leveled buildings, that leveled, and they probably were shielded too. They probably had some kind of armor that nothing affected them or energy. And so you read that and you go, wow, that was a bad encounter. That was the origin. That was one of the origins of the wrathful God that created that image. And so when you have, Jesus talks about the all-loving, all-forgiving God, and there's even prophecies that says there shall come a great one that'll bruise the head of the one who bruised the head of man. And that was Jesus coming in, taking out these wrathful gods, and others too. It wasn't limited to Christianity. You've got, you've got stories about Kuan Yin, Baba Ji, Nashringa, the feline beings, there's villages in India that pray to the feline beings that are 5th dimensional up to 7th dimensional beings, the protectors of the gods. And the bandits come in to raid the village, and all of a sudden they get knocked off the horse and their clothing is shredded, and they never see what hit them. And that's these higher dimensional beings that are helping out and protecting. But our history is replete with these stories. And if you know the real nature of the universe and who all these beings are, and then you read the history, you go, oh, that was that group. That was this group. That was, but we don't know the real history of Earth. We don't know about the colonies and who was involved in the colonies and, the star nations and everything else. The indigenous people know, they know who they are, and they know different groups, but unfortunately, most of humanity don't, especially in the religions. They they tell you it's either God or the devil. If we don't understand it,
Right.
it goes to the devil, And
Yeah.
so, and that's sad, and we are pretty primitive that way. That's when, see when Atlas says you're not ready, because there's still people clinging to the past and misinformation and disinformation. And I always tell people history is his story as written by the victors.
Oh yeah.
It shows what was written down as history. And so we don't have the real story. We've never had the real story. And if you want the real story, talk to people that have been around for a million years, that have been overseeing since day one. That's where you're going to get the real story. But they don't want that out, because that's a very empowering story, when you hear about it. But
yeah, they don't want anything empowering out there, to say
Yeah.
the least. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. And they don't realize, once people have new hope, or they have new ideas, or there's new options available, and that's where, all the suppression of information that comes from yourself. Like when I've really gone through it, and I'm like, wow. I mean, they've gone to great extents to make your information extinct, is what I was thinking, in my head. But
Yeah.
they've gone to great extents to stop this from the information from reaching the people. It's insane.
Well, you look at like Tataria, basically, in the I think it was 1800s, 1800 to 1820. There was these huge floods, and there was major glacier melt and flooding and everything else. They call it the mud floods that hit and took out a lot of Tataria, and it went up to the third story on some of these buildings. And so they're still there. Those buildings are still there, and they built new buildings on top of their foundation. And that's why you dig down 3 stories and you find windows and all. It's kind of like, it's quite interesting. But how could they erase that? I mean, that was almost a global thing. How could they erase all of that? That was just in the 1820s. And so all you got to do is wait for the civilization involved in that to kind of die out. And then you keep changing the official story, and eventually they're gone. They never existed.
Yeah.
They had huge bells they used. They used to ring these bells, and these bells would drive out any negative unseen spirits and things like that. And so they got rid of all the bells too. They got rid of the sound frequencies. But there has been a group, a lot of us know who they are. They've been very ancient. They've been around forever. And they're aligned with other entities in the unseen, and kind of, whatever you want to call them, demons, reptilians, grays, things have been around for a long time. And they've been controlling, the information. They've been controlling the evolution of Earth for quite some time. And now they're all being exposed, and they're collapsing, and they're not frequency specific to the ascension process. So that's part of the ascension process, is the great reveal, where all of this is going to be revealed. And it is now. And so all these people behind all these genocides and all this suppression of truth and all that, they're all being exposed. And some names are popping up, and families are popping up that never were before. You never even knew about these people.
Mm-hmm.
You heard about their subgroups, they're public people that were doing their bidding, but that's all being exposed right now. And we're seeing the whole network on how they used to control everybody. That's the Epstein files.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was involved in that, like governments, I was trying to think, the Mossad, the CIA, the English, the royal family, all the agencies involved in that, in that thing. And that's why they can't cover it up. I mean, they can't let it out. Also, too, is the white hats are using a lot of it to kind of blackmail the dark hearts, the cabal, into giving them information and putting it into this whole network. So
Blackmail's the name of the game right now. People put all that out there in their emails and think about all the information, and they thought a Gmail was safe at one time. Everybody is either complicit, complacent. I mean, they're blackmail's the name of the game.
And that's all coming out right now. That whole network is going to be exposed. and it's been held back. This is my intuitional feeling. I could be wrong, and I do not support in any way whatsoever anything that happened to those women and little boys too as well, and the child trafficking. I'm 100% against that. I've always have been, but I think what's happening is that sometimes, you have to use the enemy's tools against them, to take them down. And so I think they went in and they dropped a whole bunch of folders on a whole bunch of high level people. And they said, you work for us now. And so basically, but even by doing that, that's a temporary fix in a way to get rid, to get the top levels out and take care of that. And that, but everything's going to come out. It's all going to be revealed. And what's funny, the ones screaming the loudest for the list, a lot of them had the most visits to Epstein Island.
Yeah.
So
isn't that crazy how that works out that way?
Yeah. You would think they would be quiet, like, oh shit, I better just back out of here and go away. They're not. They're up there. I can't believe it. They're going, one guy was 70 times there. I can't remember how many times. And they're up there just, like attacking and everything else and trying to attack Trump and everything. I go, what are you doing, guy? You're on the list. You were there 70 times or 17 times or whatever, And
those are the people that are accusing other people. Yeah, that's exactly how they work.
And that's all going to come out. I think everything is going to be revealed, and eventually, and what's going to happen. This
needs to be sorted because they're trying to merge, like the accusations with things that have and are actually going on in the community. And it's one is like just, vomiting their stuff over onto the other. So there needs to be a way to separate that. It's out of hand. It really is out of hand. And the gossip, until people know and have seen all the details, you really need to get a wrap on it, because you're going to find yourself in a place that you have egg all over your face, because I'm seeing it more and more. And it's just, this isn't just started. This has been going on for years.
Yeah, you can see a lot of people, their consciousness, with this energy coming in, you can't suppress things anymore. And so it's coming up and exploding, and people are saying, I got to get this off my chest. And they're writing books, and they're at deathbed confessions, and all that stuff is coming out. And that a lot of the information about some of the survivors of that talk about, how, it's so dark and so degenerate. I don't even want to talk about it on the show. You probably get canceled, but it's all coming out, and major people that were actually involved in hunting them. It's going to shock people. I see people waving these flags.
It's a sport.
Go this person, go. Yeah. Go this person, go that person. They're all behind these people as they want them to be their leaders and their rulers, right? And I go, do you have any idea who these people are and what they've done and how they got to where they're at? And they sold their souls basically. But I think one of the major problems on Earth basically is the leadership of Earth do not apply universal law, and the people have to apply universal law in their own lives and then hold their leaders responsible for it, because especially if you're going to have contact, our leaders are going to have to be spiritually adept. They're going to have a high level of integrity and moral character basically, and be spiritually adept to have contact with these higher dimensional beings. And that's who should be leading the country, and not these other people who are totally integrity and morally challenged that always get to the top because they're going to do what they're told by these other groups, So we're being forced to take a hard look at this on how we choose our leadership and who's running.
They're not even listening to everybody. It's who's funding them. It's like it's not even like they're going to listen to you and regurgitate it. No, they're listening to the person funding them, and that's not the person who cares about you or any of the rest of us.
Yeah,
there's a difference.
It is really sad because the big funding is coming from a lot of billionaire eugenicists, and they just don't want the majority of us around. And so we need to come to conclusion with that. There's I always tell people, if you work for the beast, you're only ensuring yours and your family's, enslavement and eventual demise. If you want to keep serving the beast, that's where you're going to go. That's what they have planned for you. So figure it out. They don't care about you, your family, or your life, or your well-being on any level whatsoever. And it's time to figure that.
No, they care just the opposite. I have your universal law. Do you care if I post it in the chat
Sure.
so people
Go ahead.
understand? Because this is I've asked James about it, and he said to me every time, look it up. So I'm like, well, and once I did, and then it was just things really started to click. So I put it in the chat. You'll see that there. I apologize if there's any typos because I did copy and paste it, but I tried to put it together as much as I could. If anybody else isn't, because I've heard him talk about this a lot of times, and then it does start to make sense. And I think this is something that it's really important for people, because then it helps get them back on a spiritual path, James. I would love to see you do this, and even if it was over the internet conference, because this stuff right here, even though we think people by now would know where to get that information, I think it would be a great place, to start to reconnect, get them back, onto the spiritual road. Because all this other stuff, it's that's the only way until we start to remember those things. We're all, tangled up in all this crazy that goes on every day.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to people, okay, if you knew what was available, we live on an abundant planet, and nature is so abundant. Yeah, you take 1 ear of corn, it has 500 kernels on it. That's 500. Corn stalks are going to come up probably with 2 ears each, so you got 500 to, no, it's more like 1,000 to 1, basically, or at least 500 to 1 is nature. And it's even bigger in other plants and things like that. So that's how nature provides. And the same thing with everything. It doesn't matter, like fish, whatever, they produce so many eggs and so many fish and everything. And so if you just take care of nature, nature will provide everything you need, and nobody will go hungry. And we just have to figure out how to get it from here to there and keep it fresh and things like that. Well, we have all that, we have that technology to do all that, to preserve it and to transport it and everything else. Okay, that's one level. So nature's abundant. There's no reason anybody should lack. Lack is manufactured. It's controlled.
Yeah,
so
totally.
You get that. So once we understand that level, we can go, okay, if that's the case, why is there lack? Who's creating the lack? Who's poisoning the food supply? Who's doing this? And go down the line, and it all goes back to the same people every time. But and then when you look at we have another good example, and I've had this stuff in my hand. I've held it. I've seen it work. We have anti-gravity. We have counter-gravity. We have fuelless energy technology. We have medbed technology. We have frequency technologies. All of these things and natural remedies that can heal almost anything very quickly. And all of this is being suppressed. Mm-hmm. So again, by who? And what would happen if this was unsuppressed and we cleared out all the other crap that's not real, and we had some kind of a Kennedy commission, RFK commission, that is going to go through and clear all this out and provide the real stuff that heals people, and bring in the new healing technologies and everything else. We can regrow limbs, everything. We have that technology, and it's in Space Force and the other stuff. But the why isn't this available to the people? And so again, if this was all made available, we take a quantum leap in evolution. And
Definitely.
we put an end to the war, into disease, into all of this stuff. Once you get rid of the war and disease profiteers, take the profit out of war and disease, it comes to an end. And
Absolutely.
so basically you have to look at the big picture on what's going on here and who's controlling everything, and then start exposing that, for who is not allowing this quantum leap in evolution, who is allowing children to die in hospitals of cancer, suffer, and not allow these technologies to come in. Who kind of person would do that? And you're looking at people, the big money, big pharma, basically, who would kill millions of people, and make everybody sick and ill, and then give them another disease, another thing to mask that symptom, and another one. They don't really care about people's health. So you go back to universal law, which basically is universal peace, brother, sister love, individual freedom, and prosperity for all. You can put in health and things like that. You can add that in there too. But basically, if you're not operating under universal law, you're serving the beast. You're working against humanity in the earth. It's that simple. You're either working with the universal law or you're not. It's not that complicated. And so that we have to get, and so we were operating on universal law, with the Lemurians and Atlanteans at one time when the first colonies, they were overseen by other beings that were saying, that live according to universal law. And, they have their gods and masters and things as well. And they were saying the same thing that we're saying now, but they fell and they collapsed and then start over. See, so we have the same thing. Are we going to allow the beast to run everything? The people that are the tyrants that are just in it for, they're into self-service and greed and, self-gratification. Basically, that's all they're after. But, are we going to let them to run the show, or are we going to bring in the higher evolved being that operate in universal law? That's basically, we're at that same juncture in time right now where the timelines are splitting, and those who want to live according to universal law are going to continue and live a spiritual life in harmony with each other, nature, and like the Hopi prophecies, and those who want to take technology to control and dominate on a downward timeline. And that timeline is going to collapse, and it's going to be social, economic, and collapse total. And so we choose which timeline we want to be on. And so basically, that's what we're choosing right now. We can either choose to live according to universal law and go forward and ascend, and go into the next frequency, or we can go on the downward spiral into total, social, economic, and environmental collapse. Those are the two options. And the gray area in the middle, that's being cleared out too. And they're cleaning up a lot of those energies that have been holding us down and suppressing us. And some aren't physical, some are non-physical that we need to clear. So like in my workshops and classes, I cover in the self-mastery ambassador training, I cover all the beings involved, seen and unseen, who I cover all of that, and how to heal unseen negative influences, how to create sacred space, and all that's in the workshops and the classes. And even on clearings and the website, the clearings are even on the website. And every single one of my books, the clearings are in the books because they're so important right now. Because we have to realize not all of our thoughts are ours. Yes, we're in a web. We all exist within the unified field of consciousness and energy. There's some lower conscious beings affecting us emotionally and mentally, and so not all of our thoughts are our own. So we need to constantly clear that energy out, create sacred space, and remove any unseen negative influences. And that's what we teach, which is, I think, is the most important thing on the planet right now, is to teach people how to create sacred space and how to clear out the unseen negative influences so they can make. And that's going to stop that. Like, people don't realize it's like it's so convincing to you. It is so convincing in so many ways. Otherwise it wouldn't be so prevalent in your life. But when that comes forward, and when James goes in, I have to say he's done 2 clearings and things, and what I needed to stop. But
his method, things he shouldn't have. I mean, it was absolutely made a believer, and I will never, I've told the story, I don't know how many times, but it really was enough to stop me. And I was like, wow, this is so important. Like, this is so important. You don't realize how much of this day in and day out and how much this you collect with you. And you're so, tapped into the matrix on what's going on in your programming or whatever you want to call it. This is a way you want to break that, and you want to get rid of those, otherwise you're under its control.
Yeah. And we have everything we need within us. We just haven't been working with it. It's like a muscle. We never used it, so we have to start using it. But we all have our own personal God connection. We all do. There's nobody doesn't have a, you're not human. There might be some, what do they call them? Non-PC, something players. I don't know what they are, but
Right.
out there. But we all have that connection, and so you can connect through the soul, which is connected to your multidimensional self, all the way back to the source. And through the soul, you can focus on love and joy and bliss, expand your fields through the heart, do these clearings, call on one of the masters that you want to work with. There's Yeshua ben Joseph, which is Jesus's real name. There's Baba G, there's Kuan Yin, Mary, the House of Mary. I can go on and on. I think I mentioned Baba G. There's a lot of other ascended masters out there that will come and assist us. Depending on your culture, you can call on. Just make sure you're working with an ascended master. We call them the beautiful many, and the beautiful many are the ascended masters, the spiritual and technological advanced off-worlders that are coming from the higher dimensions, all that. You got some energy coming through there?
No, I got a little chilly. I was like, I'm getting comfortable. I wanted to grab a little, like the quiet fan.
Oh, man,
it just got chilly all of a sudden.
Yeah, they're coming in trying to stop this. And it's kind of weird. I can feel them. They don't want this information out there. But
would you get just like a cold? I'm not even joking. It was not like this about 2 minutes ago. And it was just like a chilling cold. I was like, man, I got to grab some warmth here. Yeah. So I definitely some shift in energy.
Like while I'm talking, I'm multitasking. I'm clearing them at the same time because they're trying to come in and stop this information.
That's how people don't realize how persistent and after you did that clearing, do you know nothing has flown off the wall here, and then the dresser has not, like that part of it stopped. Just like, and I tell people, anybody who asks me, I'm like, James, I would go to James. Like he said, I'm not sure if that's why I think some of this would be great for online, and people can ask you and understand, because you do. There are no words for how taken back I was when you did that clearing for me, especially the first one. I was like, I was not anticipating. I was like, how did you know? It was just mind blowing, but it changes the course. And if you want to change these things and these patterns, people, you got to do the clearings. You got to do the hard work too.
And, they're going to try to shut you down through fear and doubt and all this other stuff. They'll throw all that stuff at you. But, I always say doubt. You have everything within you. The beautiful many that you're calling on have the power and they have the ability. They're there to help, but they want to empower you to make your own personal connection with source or creator, great spirit. So they're going to be working on that level. They don't want to be worshiped. They want you to make your own connection. Like no dependencies. And that's how you know a true master. A true master is trying to empower you as an individual to make your own personal connection with creator, not, creator, God, great spirit, whatever you want to call it. They're not there to be worshiped. They're not there to collect billions and trillions of dollars. That's kind of self-serving. I never could understand this. And they would say, oh, you have an issue with money, or you have this, and could be, but I always I go, what do you need like 15 Rolls Royces and how many jets and planes, and some even have satellites, some of these guys, and how are you why do you need all this stuff? It's all you need is the basics. I live a very simple life and I love it. It's uncomplicated. And all you need is the basics. You don't need all this stuff. And if there are those less fortunate, let's start, putting together food banks, get seed banks, get seeds out, teach them how to garden, teach them, all this stuff, give them, educate them into some kind of I'm trying to think of the word for it, like, teach them to be carpenters, teach them to be electricians, teach them to be, a way they can cover themselves, so.
Oh, definitely.
Anyway, the trades, the trades. I mean, there's no trade that's higher or lower than other. They're all in service. I tell you, when your electricity blows, you're praying for an electrician,
Right.
Same thing with plumber, when your plumbing goes, they're all
and then you can barter those skills. If everything else, I just had this conversation with my son the other day, and he decided welding. And I was like, you have that. You have to have that trade or that skill because you don't know. And it could be but if this does shut down, that's what they want you to think. Yes, a robot's going to take that. That's going to take that. I said, Brody, you have a skill or a trade because that's what they're going to take away from you. And then that's where you'll have room to barter. You got to think ahead of them. You really do.
I always think about, at any point in time, like could happen tomorrow, could happen a couple of years in the future. I don't know. But at any point in time, our whole grid can go down. Everything, not just communications, the power grid, gas won't pump, your card's not going to work, everything. And you better have a trade. You better have something that people need, not something that they've talked you into needing that you didn't really need, all that plastic crap out there. You're going to need something like that. And if you're going to be of service to humanity and the earth, you better have some building skills or some farming skills or some skills that, that are going to preserve things. There's all kinds of things that we need to learn, but that's what we should be teaching. And we worship these computer giants and we worship all this other stuff. And we pay them billions of dollars, and we send all these stupid rockets up into space when we already have anti-gravity. It's like, yeah, I know NASA.
Smoke and mirrors, people. Smoke and mirrors while we're filtering the money right back down. Yep. Oh yeah.
And it's just the dispersal of wealth. I have nothing against millionaires, billionaires, if they're good people. If they've acquired their wealth, through ways of high integrity. There's no problem with that. But, if you've done it through a lot of deception, you've done it through a lot of, actions against humanity and the earth, then I don't have any time for that. So I'm not saying billionaires are bad or whatever else. There are some really good, really brilliant people that have amassed a lot of wealth, and a lot of them are helping out. They are helping out the planet. But to me,
I'd feel better if they weren't helping out as a tax write-off.
Yeah, even that, that's good, but I'm just saying personally, if I had $1 billion, I probably wouldn't have it real long. I know a little villages in Mexico. Villages in Mexico that don't have wells, and
yes, that's exactly it. Yeah,
they could use some tractors to help them out, to harvest, like.
Doesn't it make sense? It doesn't have to
be a big tractor. They've got small little things that help them put crops in and stuff like that. And they're beautiful people. They have light spheres all around them because they're close to nature and things like that. But there's a lot of places that, and we have the technology to totally clean up our oceans, to clean our water, to clean up our air, do everything. And these other guys are doing everything they can to kill us. They're poisoning the water, they're poisoning the air, they're poisoning our food.
And until we come to terms with that and realize systems, we wouldn't need problem reaction solution. We wouldn't need all their products that keep them so rich. I mean, at a certain point, it's just like that has to. I mean, how could you sit at your house with 52,000 bedrooms and, probably 32 locations and a maid staff of, who knows what you got going on. When you could simply, when there's all these people without basic necessities, you
Yeah.
got 5,000 bathrooms to choose from in the morning, and they have to wonder where they're going to find a bathroom, in the morning. It's just crazy.
Yeah. All you need is one.
Right. Right. Don't need
Yeah.
the rest of them.
I tell you, it is really helpful sometimes to get, just go on a camping trip, where you don't have a bathroom, you don't have a shower,
Yeah, right.
and you're wondering how long your food's going to last, and you've got it. And then all of a sudden you catch a fish and you're going, oh my God, I've got this fresh fish. I don't have to eat this dried food that, we took this food once on a camping trip and it was dried, and we took the oatmeal and we had, after eating it, and we put it on a rock, and like a day later, you could not chip that off the rock. It was like,
Wow.
and you go, what is this doing to my stomach? These things like that. But you think about that. We really need to, figure out where our water's coming from and test it. We need to find out, we need to check out the quality of our air and all of that, and the food.
And come together with people who exchange things. Don't go to the people who are paid to test it. If
Exactly.
People in the community, start list. I've done this before, and it's such a resourceful thing, where they've passed around things, part of like groups. What are your strengths? What are your, blah, blah, blah. What would you have to offer in cases like this? Because this is when we need audits. We need people to be doing audits on the system. The watchdogs are needed.
Every place I've ever lived, I left better than it's like the ranch over there in Washington. We have chickens, we have sheep, we have all that stuff. And I put in ponds, big ponds and all the stuff there, reforested the area. It's like a sanctuary now. All the animals come there. It was kind of desolate. There was hardly anything there. And now we have huge gardens and everything's thriving. But I mean, we can all do that. Turn your land into a food bank, start just get as many seeds as you can. Just start planting them and plant enough for others and start sharing. And we'll be so abundant. Go to the markets, the small markets, the flea markets and the other ones, get your produce from the local farmers, and things like that. We really need to go back to that. And anyway, it's like, I always tell people, who do you think is going to be the last ones on the planet? And I said, probably the Amish,
For real. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Yes.
Yeah, they know.
And they know they're the closest to not being so self-sufficient, even on electricity. I mean, now they're coming, they're, into it, but there's still people in their culture that remember what it was like going with complete, and no electricity. Like that's,
there's books out there about, the Amish ways, and there's ways of preserving food without a refrigerator and all that. It's all there. How to make your own butter, how to do this, how to do that. And what's this guy has a question here? Is it possible for
this is from before. Yeah, I wanted to pull. This is from Andrew Rollins. He said, what did James know of the higher self? If it's possible for him, enlighten us on what he may know about our higher self. Why isn't it the topic of higher self talked about more?
Oh, that's all I talk about, basically. So, basically what we are is, most people think they're a body and a personality, and you're suppressed to think that that's all you are. And you're kept in survival, the first three chakras, which are survival, sex, and power, and ruled through fear and things like that. And so that's where most of humanity is. Not, I wouldn't say most. Some are up into the higher, have some of the higher chakras going. Anyway, so those are the lower chakras, and we're trapped in there. As you move up the vibration continuum, you go into the heart, which is love felt for everything, for everyone. And then you get into love expressed through the other chakras here. And then this is God seen in everything, where you start seeing the other dimensions, the other planes of creation. And then I am God is your crown when it opens up and comes in. And so there are meditations where you can sit and meditate and activate all your chakras going up, and you can run the energy up and down. We teach Qigong, we teach all that stuff at the ranch. And so there are techniques. We teach Qigong, which is the same thing, but there are techniques like Qigong. Trying to think, there's a bunch of them that you can learn. Yoga, a lot of yoga methods and stuff like that. But again, like the yogis say, get out in nature and focus on love and joy and bliss until you become it, and activate it, initiate connecting with your higher selves. It's not just one. And we're a multidimensional being existing on a vibrational continuum. And so we have our soul, which is above the personality and the self. And this within the soul has the astral level too, that has all of our lives, everything we've ever done or been, that most people don't have access to. And then above that, you have, there's different names for it. The TIC, Teaching of Christ, they call it your soul. And then you have your Christ self, and then your I am, and your God self, and your cosmic, they have all these different levels. And we exist on a vibration continuum all the way back to your God self, which is at one with God. You're totally one with God. And you're one with the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness and all planes and dimensions throughout this multidimensional unified field, which we live in. And that's what Jesus was aligned with. When he said, I myself do nothing, the Father through me doeth the works, he ignited that spark in the soul into the full flame and became one, with the one consciousness. And so Jesus, the man, was like pushed aside, and God was working through Jesus. And he kept telling people, this is the path, this is the way. I'm trying to think. He goes, ye are all God's children of the Most High. What happens when the child grows up? Right. You can't be a child all your life.
So true. That's what I try and explain to people. I'm trying to teach my son how to survive. Like how to survive in the, when I'm not there. Like if I have him tracked every minute of every day and I don't give him, it's getting worse. I'm surprised. Shame on you Gen Xers for even playing into all this surveillance and stuff. We're not teaching our kids how to survive. We're teaching them how to be tracked and compliant.
And it's really sad too. There's people that just have their nose in their phones all day long, sun up to sundown, until they fall asleep at 1:00, And you just go, wow, well, what are you doing that's productive? This is a illusion. This whole thing you're working at is not tangible, really. It's not real. You're becoming totally dependent on this thing, this little phone. And I said that, it's okay to check in and see what's going on now and then, but sometimes you need to back away from it and put it away, because it is great. And all your information and who you are and what you think and everything is in that phone or on that TV. And you might want to get out and travel a little bit and see how things really are, what's really going on in the world, because you'll find out, it's like if you went to Russia, you probably find out the Russians are awesome people. Anywhere you go, when you just deal with the people, they're always like, most of them are pretty loving and everything's fine. It's the governments that keep the divisions going. And so you,
what would you think, if somebody went around the neighborhoods and asked, hey, do you guys think that we should be firing missiles off at so-and-so? I mean, if you really went door to door and started asking the people are going to say, no, they don't want that. They don't want the death. They don't want the bloodshed. It's the same thing everywhere else. I got into these information groups. I actually had a teacher from high school, real quick. She was from Russia. They did not even realize the Cold War was going on. She was a history teacher who came over to the United States. She swore up and down during the time they heard nothing about it. And she was a history teacher coming, out of this for the United States. So there's enough room for me to have a few questions there.
Yeah. And, I do understand, a leader is supposed to do what's highest and best for their people, basically. And that's what each group is trying to do in a way. But but sometimes it's not highest and best good to be dropping bombs on each other. It just creates more problems. But and a lot of people are playing the victim role, who are the perpetrators. They're the persecutors basically, and they're, poor me, I'm a victim, and behind their back they got a missile and grenades and everything else.
Whole stash of them, Barry. Oh yeah.
There's old grudges being worked out. Ancient grudges are being worked out. Not just personal, but whole countries. And all this stuff. But the energy coming in is pushing all that to the surface, and eventually, you're going to get, it's all going to work itself out. Just don't get caught up in it. But I mean, people that come to ECETI, I was talking about that. We have people from all over the world come to ECETI, and they always get along. And we have a couple of rules. One, no wrathful gods. And two, don't try to force your beliefs on others. You can have an open debate, and you can, I think it's great to have open debates, about, but if your God needs defending, you've got a very puny God. He needs a human to defend him.
And if he needs to threaten you to do the right thing, and then he seems like, yeah, exactly, he's kind of not very certain in his work. If you don't abide by this, and he's got to put extreme measures in there for, I think you should think about that.
Well, it's like, in the name of God, you're supposed to go kill the other children of God who are your family, extended family, basically, because we all came from the same source. And nobody sits down and goes, wait a second, wait, you want me to do what?
How does turn the other cheek go to eye for an eye?
I haven't even met. I know nothing about this person or their family or their ways or anything. And you want me to go over and kill these people? How about I just go talk to them first?
Yeah. How about we just find out maybe this is all a big miscommunication,
And you go there, and they'll feed you and house you and love you, and they might ask questions and things like that, and you go, wow, But, and I'm not discounting the fact that there aren't some really bad people out there that are just, they've been taken over by their own anger and their own fear and things like that, which are actually entities that opens the door for them to come in too. And there are people that you set firm boundaries with people like that. You need to stop that. And there are other people using that energy to get what they want, to expand, to land grabs. They're using that. Like I always tell people, there's no such thing as a holy war. It never was a holy war. There's always one king or leader that wanted what another
holes in it, but no.
And then they demonize those people, and then they got the churches behind it, and then so they could have their war, But without all that influence, there probably never would be a war. It's just all about power,
money,
and wealth.
Power, and wealth. And why is it that these people, this is the most confusing part, they know we don't live forever. But why is it so important for them to obtain all the money and the power and the control over all of this? This has been passed along through all of this. It's not in our favor. Whichever way you look at it, it's always been a control mechanism, always a way to keep the people in control, to do the work you want them to do. And, it's insane. It really is insane.
Well, a lot of them have been programmed that way, by their family and lineage, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And then a lot of them have actually gone through rituals and ceremonies where they've been initiated into some very dark leadership, unseen energies, things like that. There's a lot to that story, but anyway, there's just, it goes back down to universal law in ways, basically. And there are dark realms, there are demonic energies, there are reptilians, royal reptilians, serpent beings, grays. They've been talked about throughout history. Those exist, and they don't really have humanity's highest and best good. Some of them actually hate us. Would like to see them, we remind them of Creator, and they want us gone, so
there's an uttered hatred towards humanity that does not make sense by a segment of the population.
Yeah, and that stuff exists, and when people get into anger and rage and things, they allow that in. And then the next thing you know, they're not even there anymore. These other entities are controlling them. So you're seeing a lot of that, but that's all being cleaned up right now and being exposed. And really, we really need to get a foundation of universal law, and then hold our leaderships, feet to the fire on that. And then all this other stuff loses its hold. Basically, you just ask somebody, well, how's that fit within universal law? How does that fit with being kind and loving? How does that fit in being of service to humanity, on the earth, and you have to keep asking those questions. Well, this action you're taking, how does that fit, with God's law, the real God, not the jealous, wrathful, bearded pantheon gods of old and Anunnaki that came here. We're talking about the all-loving, all-forgiving, pure, unconditional love and joy and bliss, consciousness and energy God, the creator of all creation, whatever you want to call it, the big cheese, the absolute, everybody has names for it. You just go, how does that fit into that? Because there are people that serve the beast, they serve the dark side, and there's people that serve the light side. And people go, well, that's division. I said, no, that's just reality. It's like Star Wars. There's a dark force and a light force. Division. Yeah, there's a gray area in between, and that gray area is getting cleaned up. So it's all going to be revealed because the whole planet's ascending, and we have two options right now. People go, well, that goes against free will, and I go, oh no, we still have free will. We can either choose to ascend or take the downward spiral into total oblivion. It's like, you still have that choice, but with every choice comes a reaction.
Reaction, yep.
Yeah, so I mean, you choose the downward spiral, if you choose to work with the beast, you're gonna go with it. You're gonna go down with the beast when it goes.
So true. And there's a difference between, like I agree, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But there's such a true, in going through some of the hard stuff and staying true and being tested and true to your ground isn't the downward spiral to the rest. That's the point of where you get to decide. And, you think it, but nothing good really comes without a fight. Like nothing, it's not just handed over easy. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's true. And true, the more you get out in nature, what I see is that sometimes you just have to put everything down and get out in nature. And you got to do the clearing work. You got to meditate. You got to clear your fields. And if you don't, this stuff just keeps building up. And then pretty soon, you're pissed off at everybody and going around barking at everybody. And that's because you didn't take personal responsibility for your fields and your energy. And we have a saying, if you don't like what you're feeling, do a healing. It's very simple. If you
I like that.
You can clear out your house, you can clear out your family, you can clear out your business. You can do world and personal healing meditations. Those are all on the site as well. And we need to start taking personal responsibility for the earth and our environment and the unseen energies as well. We need to start clearing those up, and we can do it. We have everything we need. We have the tools within us, or we have the connection within us, I should say. And then all we got to do is use the tools. And it's like we were thrown on the earth without a manual. Nobody gave us the manual.
No, I didn't get a manual. None here either.
I wrote the manual.
Yeah. I found one going back that it was literally how it must have been structured for the Masons, but then my phone all of a sudden went to this astronomically high temperature and the screen shattered. And I was like, well, there went that. Like, even if I did have, but I mean, there is a playbook that's out there that we are not given. And I'm pretty sure if you find it,
what they can do to your people are going to freak out when they find out what they can do to you through your phone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. And then the stuff that they're able to. When you said before about the shaman frequency, that they were going. People don't realize how sedative this is. When I was using that as a meditation state, it was for, that's scary. That's scary with some of the stuff that they're able to do, even with these frequencies. I just wanted to throw that in there while I was still thinking about it. But yeah, all of this stuff. How do you protect, I was talking to Jessica Jones, and she's like, do you dream anymore? And I was like, not like I used to. Not like I used to. And she said, it's all of the, she's like, pretty soon they're going to be inserting commercials and people are having like, this mall world or whatever. We're having these shared dreams. I mean, this is a little scary.
Well, they already have that. They already have computer brain technology, and you don't even know it's not your thought. Sure. And you go, I want, you could walk by a thing of oranges, and you can walk by it, not even see it. And you go, man, I want an orange. I really want an orange. I don't know why. And then all of a sudden you hear a little voice over here, turn your head this way or something like that. And you got somebody up there on a little keyboard, going, look to your left, the orange. And then, so I'm just using that as an example. I mean, they can there's a lot of people that think they're talking to Jesus or some high level ET that are actually talking to a computer.
I know. And this has been going on. Like, I taught people all the time. I was like, it's just a part of it. I don't care if you want to admit it or not. You either have internal dialogue that's going. Now, sometime try and see if that's in your internal dialogue and talk against it. And see if it tries to overpower you, and see if it still continues and tries to jam you up. That's what you need to get a hold of. That right there is the programming disguised as yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen that over and over, and I've helped people a lot with that. There's a lot of targeted individuals that they're being targeted by either technology or unseen negative influences. And the clearings work for both, but you really gotta get clear within yourself so you can recognize what is yours and what's not. What is this information, and you can cut it off and just say, not here.
Yeah. And those associated,
not mine. Set a boundary, not mine. Those aren't my thoughts, and then start doing clearings and don't participate.
I had to, every single time I started to hear it, I was like, everything you're saying is a lie. Even if I had to out sing it or sing a song, eventually it breaks it. You're able to break it down. But it is so incessant. And when you realize just how much of that internal dialogue, it just is not you, but the pictures you're associating with it, that telepathy is not just the way, audio you hear. A lot of it has to do with that other part too, is the visualizations that you're getting with it. They're tying the two together. Horrible combination.
I think it's not too far away. There's going to come a time where all of these fields, manipulating negative fields, are going to collapse. And then all of a sudden we're going to be in our own energies, and we're going to go, wow. And you start feeling really good, and you start going, wow, this is what happened. Somebody flipped a switch, and that whole negative network is going to collapse along with that timeline. And then we're going to be in a different state. And when people realize, and then people are going to realize how much they've been manipulated, how much they've been suppressed, how much their energy.
Fear is the primal. They'll get you and wrap you in on that one.
I think it's kind of destiny that energy is not frequency specific to the earth and her ascension. So it will collapse. Hopefully we can switch it out, into, we can do the same thing with positive frequencies and broadcast positive frequencies and positive thought and think. We can do the same thing. It goes both ways. Mm-hmm. So what happens if everybody, hijacks the airwaves and starts putting positive thoughts out there and empowering thoughts, and things like that? That's when things start happening. I think that is, a lot of people are figuring it out and taking control of their own thoughts and actions, basically, which is,
you should start a campaign, like something, at noon every day. Just people will start to see such a difference when you start to have, as soon as you're consciously aware of that, have that awareness, it changes everything. It really does.
How about personal responsibility week, where everybody takes personal
Mm.
responsibility for their thoughts, their attitudes, emotions, and actions, and
Oh, a week
just
of
keep expanding
accountability.
that. Yeah.
Yes. I like that. I do. I
That'd be a
think that
good one.
that'd be a good point. I think so too. And I know you've covered a ton of information, and I don't feel like we scratched the surface, but if
Yeah.
we're under 2 hours, I get those clips and I can send all of them to you. But I want to know if you'll and I'm not sure how we should structure this, but I think if anything, and what I'm seeing, and I know that I think the nighttime audience, like needs to hear this too, but kind of put something I don't know, together. The kind, just people. It seemed like even in the chat tonight, talking about universal law and what it was, and explaining a little bit more. Like I felt it. People are starting to catch on, and I hate to admit this, I'm finally really starting to catch on, and I've been studying your stuff for a long time. But it was like, you know what I'm saying? Like just some of these basics again. And I don't know what your schedule looks like or whatever after the holidays, but if you want to do a part 2 on this.
Yeah, I could organize that. Let me talk to my producer too and see, but
Okay.
I've been wanting to do something like that, but I haven't figured out exactly what and the timing.
Yeah.
But I'd really like to set up, a time, do it on like a Tuesday afternoon or something like that,
Sure.
or Tuesday evening or something like that, and do just say, okay, all we're going to do is this is going to be personal responsibility hour, and
That'd be
using
brilliant.
universal law in everyday life, and
Yes. And then teaching them how to apply this to the real world. That is the part that's always missing.
yeah,
That's
and actually
brilliant.
do the clearings. We could do the clearings right there, because I always do that before my show. I clear the show, and I'm doing clearings on people during the show, and everybody that comes in there, they'll say when they go to ECETI Stargate on the Rumble one, because I'm in the chat there, and everybody says, God, I feel so good. This is my family. This is every time I come in here, I get lifted up again, and I feel good about, and that I'm okay. You're really saying, hey, this is what's really going on, and you're okay. You're not crazy, and
Right.
I always go away feeling really good because I don't sugarcoat it. I talk about both sides of the coin. I don't do half truths, that a lot of people put out there. But,
I would love to do that and then pass it along to my, listeners, and then just like it's like a whole, with some of the stuff. I think that it would be so beneficial for everybody, because
I wonder
people
how we could do that. We could set it somehow to where it goes out on all of our networks at the same time.
I can help set that up over here too. I have some ideas.
Yeah, I'll cook you up with Jason, and maybe we'll figure something out like that.
Yes, I think we could, especially a webinar. I think I have an idea, a couple of them. But so I think we should definitely. James is not one of those people that sits back and stuff. He's like on it. Yeah. So I guess today's a great. I mean, today has been one of the most beneficial shows I think that I've done in a very long time in regard to really applying this to the real world and being able to make these changes and start to organize and seeing the importance of all that again. Yeah. Is there, until we come back and figure all this out, what would you like to leave the listeners with today?
Basically, it's keep the faith, basically, especially with, there are so many ships right now here, and they're cloaked. A lot of them are decloaked, and they're flying over major cities, everything else. And they're like God's cheerleaders, they're saying there is more, wake up, they're multidimensional cheerleaders, basically. And so don't give up. They're trying to say, oh, C1 Atlas left and it's over. We failed, and it's like, no, it's not over. It's still going. And so, it did scan us, and it did figure out where we were and what we need to do. And it's given us a way out. It's called Transcendence. I just wrote a whole newsletter on Transcendence and what it's about. And so that would be a good one to read on the show.
Yes. Oh, yes. And then they can get onto that list. I'm putting James's website right down here in the chat. So it's ECETI study.org. And Yeah, we'll try and get the newsletter. Yes, that would be an amazing thing. And let's stay
Yeah,
connected because
there's a
what
lot
you're
of things I
doing is
think.
paving the way here.
Yeah. Because really, I need to do it for two reasons. One, I need to get the message out and help people. And two, I need to set up some kind of donation button so we can keep the doors open,
Right.
keep the utilities on, and everything. People have no idea how much it costs,
Oh,
just,
man. With
just keep
inflation and
the
everything
roads.
else too.
Well,
And
just,
especially you've stood your guns, you haven't caved. You haven't
yeah,
just been that, so you don't get to go to a lot of the conferences where the posers are standing. And
yeah. Just to keep the utilities on, with the East City Ranch and this one here, and keep the food. We're feeding people organic food, the volunteers here, and covering their expenses and all that stuff. People have no idea. It really racks up, and even though we're a very simple operation, we try to keep it simple, and the funds go directly to the ranch and upkeep on the ranch and whatever building we can do at the time. People go,
James
oh,
is out doing and picking the coffee. James is out there. I've seen pictures throughout the day and video, and it's James is running. It's a communal living. It's not like
yeah.
anybody's living above. I mean, it's an all effort,
Yeah,
which I think
nobody's
is
sitting up
super
on a
cool.
throne telling people what to do. I mean, I'm cleaning the toilets, I'm digging the ditches, and last one of our conferences, one of the toilets backed up, and I'm in there, and I'm going to go on in like 30 minutes, and I'm in there snaking the thing out and fixing it.
Yeah.
Nobody else knew how to do it. I'm going, God, my God, and so luckily I know how to fix things and do stuff, but had a lot of training there. But it's really like, nobody's sitting on the throne barking out orders. Everybody's working really hard and carrying their weight and stuff like that. The ones that don't last very long. They move on. Basically. But
As they
but
should, but I think that's so impressive that you're out there and you're walking the talk. You're walking the talk.
Yeah, and I mean, I've created wherever I go, I create food banks.
Yes.
I plant tons of trees, and I plant all kinds. Have big gardens and trees, and create food banks out of it. Grow surplus so you can feed others, and so it's like an example. Like, I don't just talk it, I walk it, and
You do. And more.
And I enjoy it. I enjoy working hard. I'm glad I can do it.
I see the pictures, and you're always like involved, and you always have a big smile on your face, and you're like, some picture like, this gets to be my office, and I'm like, man, not a lot of people are going to want to go out there and do all that hard work, but I give you so much credit.
We go play. I go out and jump in the ocean now and then, and we don't swim with the dolphins because that's illegal. But every once in a while, they come swim with you. But they. It's kind of like we have fun too. There's playtime and work time both, but it's just a balance. You got to keep a balance in there.
Absolutely.
The thing about work is it's only work, and it's only hard if your mind is wrong.
You don't like what you're doing, and you can tell that you love it, and that's your mission. Well,
everybody goes,
thank you so much, James.
Because I love it.
You do. I believe that. I definitely believe that. But we were about 20 seconds away from losing our shorts, and I'll get those all to you too. I think you're going to have a fantastic one. So thank you, and we'll be in touch soon. And I appreciate all you do. And unfortunately, I got to wrap this up in like 10 seconds. So thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for taking the journey into the unknown with SNX Radio. I'm Coley. Have a happy Thanksgiving, and I will catch you up on the other side as to everything else, because I don't want to lose the shorts. So night, guys, and I will be seeing you soon.